Well, hello there, Magic Maker. I'm coming at you live today, so I'm making sure that the system is working before we choose to disrupt the system. There we go. Hello, welcome to Walking in Magic. My name is Maria Aleandra. You can call me MA, and it is Friday the 13th. Happy Goddess Day. Did you know that the number 13 is a divinely feminine number? It is a number of the goddess. Did you know that Friday is astrologically associated with the planet Venus? You know I love working with Venus if you saw my last video. And also with the goddess Frigg of Norse mythology. So, and there's some other beautiful connections as well, but we'll begin with those two. So, Disrupt the System is the title that I gave this video, and it's an interesting one. I knew I wanted to go live today on Friday, the 13th, and I knew I wanted to share what was moving through, what I could sort of perceive, and give you some insights and some suggestions on how to approach today, whenever you watch this video, and as we enter into eclipse territory, eclipse portal that opens tomorrow, again, as of the recording of this video. We have two eclipses coming up in Libra and Taurus, both ruled by Venus. There's more on that in the last video that I shared earlier this week. So go check it out, including a ritual that I'm recommending and hopefully you feel inspired to do yourself over the eclipse season. I'd like for us to be in this energy and understanding of how we disrupt the system by listening to the whispers of what we know to be true about ourselves, our sense of self-worth, our creativity, how we approach the world around us, and how we elevate the love we have for ourselves, and how we hold ourselves in a place of just in a place of self-worth, which sounds like such a sort of potentially corny catch-all, but let's play with it. Venus is associated with self-worth, with feeling a sense of both autonomy and also co-creation and building bridges, but from a place of knowing who you are. As we enter into the space of the Libra new moon happening tomorrow with the solar eclipse, Libra is this archetype and energy of connection, of justice, of balancing and harmony, and of building bridges. And then on the other side, well, opposite to Libra, we have Aries, which is what's lighting up in our collective North Node, our collective sort of North Star pointing in the direction of who are you? And then when you are grounded in that information and that knowing, then going out to build bridges with other people. But if we look at just the eclipses, we see on the other side the sign of Taurus, which is connected to self-worth, resources, inner peace, freedom, the freedom that comes from knowing who you are, the freedom that comes from knowing what you need, the freedom that comes from, quite frankly, not being codependent on anybody else or anything else, but rather using connections as sources of creation, co-creation. So here we have this Libra eclipse that is calling us to release and recalibrate and dissolve the energies around us that feel like we need something in our lives in order to function in terms of people. And I know this can be a very deep, multi-layered conversation, honestly, as is everything that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the multi-layered things that feel complex and are also have this ease to them when you just boil it down to sort of its bare bones. The bare bones, it's what we're missing. We've overcomplicated so much that we have forgotten how to sit with the bare bones of something. And that could be a potentially scary and triggering place because all of a sudden you're left with not a whole lot of the trappings and the things that the system has told you that you need in order to fill in the blank. Are we living in a, real world with things happening where we have jobs and families and people to care for and bills to pay and cars that break down? And yes, we are. Are we also living in a reality where we can make choices moment by moment? Yes, we are. And understanding that those of us that are watching this probably are right now have the ability to make an abundance of more choices than many other people in the world. I want to honor that as well. This is not about some toxic positivity, fake it till you make it, change your mindset, change your life. No. And yet it is about that mindset of how do I shift from my frequency from within to then affect and impact everything that is happening outside of us. I was reading this morning that the average adult that has the opportunity to make, choices in their lives, which is an incredible privilege and a gift. The average adult makes about 35,000 choices in a day. Somewhat conscious choices, right? Some choices might feel more automatic than others. Let's be mindful of those as well. But think about making 35,000 choices. That seems like a lot to even wrap our heads around. And if there was a small fraction of those choices that you decided intentionally to shift in a new direction, what a profound impact that would have on your life. We're not talking about half a dozen choices. We're not talking about 50. We're not talking about 100. We're talking about thousands upon thousands of micro moments where you can go from this to this. So how do we boil it down to the practical magic of this? Enter Venus. What are some things that you can do and activate in your life to reawaken your sense of self-worth? What does it mean for you to disrupt the system that tells you that you are not good enough, not worthy enough, not fill in the blank enough? What would happen if you are faced with the choice of dimming your light versus enhancing your light? What happens with the choices where you are sitting with a multitude of projects and different avenues that you might want to go into, ways to help people, and you then become so overwhelmed by the multitude of things, and my goodness, what a blessing to have a multitude of different things to choose from. What would it look like to make the choice to step from that overwhelm into a place of, I will choose and then I will follow through to completion? This mantra that I cultivated a few years ago, and I've reawakened it since then. After I reawakened it during my Everyday Magic series last week, it took on a new form, which I think is incredible. The mantra is, I am a woman of completion. And of course, replace woman with whatever feels aligned with you. For me, it's I am a woman of completion. I finish what I start. And I don't say this to myself or to the people I have the opportunity to work with from a place of judgment or a place of that crunchy sense of, well, you're not living up to your full potential, and what are you doing? Man, no. I say this from the perspective of there is power in completion, just as there is power in release. What could you complete within this eclipse energy? What could you release and let go of that you're not really planning to complete? Close that door. Why? So that more energy and more space, both symbolic and literal and practical in your life, is created to welcome the new things that will inevitably arise for you. What relationships have drained you? Where have you built bridges with other people in your life that may need some repair work or maybe need to be dismantled altogether. Where are you in the conversation with your own sense of autonomy, represented by the Aries North Node? This big question, who are you? Who are you? I've been sitting with this question and offering it up to my clients and in sessions and in gatherings and in my email newsletter time and time again. And it's one, and the image I get in my beautiful, whimsical world is I can't help but think about the caterpillar. Sorry about the dog. I can't help but think about the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland asking Alice, who are you? And every time she tries to explain from the perspective of like, it's almost like, how does the system describe Alice? He goes back, who are you? Yeah, but who are you? And she dives back into the sort of routine, automatic, mechanical conversations of who you are. How do you disrupt that system? The caterpillar was pretty annoying to a point, or could be considered annoying, could also be considered like whimsical, but also like kind of like, that's what that question might feel like for you. I wonder if that's what that question feels like when I've said it for the upteenth time to the people that sit in community with me. Hello to my Patreon viewers. My Patreon supporters. I love you. Thank you for supporting my work and doing it with me. I wonder if they're annoyed. I'm not going to stop asking it until we're complete with the Aries and Libra North-South node cycle. We have a few months into 2024 to go. The shifting of transformation and the disruption of systems and the inclination and the invitation to ruffle feathers is not something that everybody carries as profoundly. But those of us who do, I would say let's ask ourselves and let's sit in our own sacred space, our meditative space. Let's write about it. Let's journal about it. Let's do art around it. Let's pull some cards around it. How am I being called to disrupt the system? And how do I do that with love? With love, in love. Leaning towards the balancing of energies that have been in a state of imbalance for so long. In my newsletter this week, I was talking about, again, this invitation to bring things into balance between the interplay between autonomy and co-creation. Both are absolutely pivotal and necessary. And when we work from a place of autonomy and then co-create, that's when the real new seed grows in that space that is authentic and true and real. There has been an imbalance where it might look like a lot of what I sit with is quite honestly, and it's kind of like, I'm hesitate to say it, but a lot of what I sit with has to do with what I've perceived over the past few years around the coaching industry, guidance, teachers, spiritual guides, healers, this sort of kind of all lumped in. I know not everybody's the same and there's lots of nuance here, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that there is a system that has been created, and a lot of people are playing into it intentionally and some people are playing into it unintentionally, but there is a system that's been created that tells you that you are not enough and therefore you need XYZ person, product, project, thing. Of course, we can get into a conversation about capitalism and how that influences things. We can get into a conversation of authenticity versus being inauthentic and what you offer and how you approach the world. I believe that, and this is a shift that we are in the midst of right now, gone are the days when it will be okay for us to work with people that see us from an elevated perch and project down onto us, and do it in such a way that they are trying to chip away at our ego. just enough to make us feel like I can't do this without that person. And again, I'm saying this in the sort of realm of, I'm using this coaching industry place as an example. And it also is a dynamic that can absolutely play, of course, in relationships of lots of different kinds. That is a system that will not withstand the shifts that we are moving into. That is a system that will not withstand the desire that people have to move into authentic forms of communication, co-creation, and invitations to continue to discover who you are. You don't need anybody. We get to connect with others to help us in our discovery process. You don't need to become someone that you are not. You need to become you, which requires releasing of a lot of layers and stuff and gunk, and happens in moments of like aha moments of painful release of like what we would call a death of an ego aspect, right? An ego death, which is like an aspect of self that you were carrying on that now is exiting your life. Some people may experience that during this eclipse portal. Things may fall away rather dramatically and quickly, and then we're left with the grieving process of, oh, that was an old form that I held. No longer. Are you able to allow that form to honor, thank, and then release that form because it played a certain role in your life, but then you're moving on to something else? You're alchemizing yourself into a new version, which basically is like a blooming of another version of you. That might happen to some people. So it happens in moments of those like dramatic ego deaths. And how do you walk through that process of grieving that form, letting them go, excuse me, and allowing the space to breathe into something new, allowing yourself the space and the integration to, inhabit new forms and keep stepping into unknown spaces that illuminate. And it can also happen in moments of these like super clarifying aha moments of delight that you're like, oh, I hadn't seen it that way. That's amazing. And then can we integrate that sense of joy and possibility and hope and weave it into the fabric of who we are? Because the world outside and all of its pain and challenge tends to, culturally speaking, tends to lean towards the things that are really hard and minimize the things that are hopeful and optimistic. We are not negating the things that are hard, but we want to be able to integrate those moments of you being connected to who you are and your sense of self from a very Taurus perspective, which is grounded and is asking you, what is essential? What is your essence? What is your essence? All the stuff around it is not your essence. The stuff can be nice. The stuff can make things more, happier for a period of time, but it is not your essence. And that's a very Taurus territory, which is where we're going to be in that full moon in Taurus on October 28th. Holy moly. Holy moly. The things and how they're like moving and shaking in the sky right now. Just tap into what you're feeling. Trust yourself. Keep opening the doors of discovery. Be in a space of what I call liminal listening. Look at the symbols around you and lean into what reanimates your autonomy. Reanimate is such a beautiful word. What reanimates your autonomy? We can also say your sovereignty. Your autonomy is you feeling whole in your own island of self. It doesn't mean lone wolfing it. It doesn't mean separate yourself from society. It doesn't mean, just do it by yourself because nobody else can do it with you or for you. There's some language there that is like interesting to keep like peeling. Do it because you are a self-sufficient island that then can build bridges to other islands and benefit from that connection so that you can exchange beautiful resources or have connections of pure joy and delight. Are your relationships right now transactional? Are your relationships co-creative? And transacting with someone and trading, or that idea of like, oh, you give me this and I'll give you that, can absolutely hold a beautiful place in creation, because we all have ingredients that we can give each other and put in our cauldrons as we're, creating new potions. But know that you also have a self-sufficiency within you that can move you through anything and everything. And from that space, we can then build bridges that are on equal footing with other people. That balance is where we are going to get, like activated and challenged right now. Sit in your questions, sit in your magic, sit in your sense of trust and your intuition. Know that you're not alone. I think it's a time to it's less about needing specific answers, and it's more about creating, like, I want to bring this to like a practical sort of like grounded space. It's not a time to make like a big swing. It's not. It's a time to release. And it's a time, because we have Venus in Virgo, and Venus in Virgo wants to help you create systems that feel beautiful and nourishing and that hold your life. The day to day, moment by moment systems that help you. That's what this time would be good for. To discern, what are the habits and routines that I want to maybe try or experiment with over the next, however many weeks we have left in the year. What is it, like 10 weeks or something like that? See it as an experiment and commit to a certain flow of day to day to day, not a big swing. If you have a big swing brewing, and when I say that, I mean a big project, something that you're like diving into, begin to set the bedrock for it. Begin to work towards it. The really cool thing about this space of the space that we're in right now, entering into eclipse season and the end of the year, which is always that release time, is while I think most of the conversation we hear around is like, oh, this is a place where this is a time of year where it's just, we go to the dark, and it's like, yes. And don't be afraid to continue to be generative and creative, but do it with the intention that as you create and generate, you will be simultaneously shedding the old beliefs, systems, stories, whatever BS that you no longer want to carry, in order to bring that to life, to enter into the next calendar year, or, spring bloom time, if we want to follow more of the wheel of the year energy, with something that's gone through a process of like distilling, like sifting through it. But don't be afraid to be generative. And again, see how your sense of autonomy is being reanimated during this time. Ask yourself those questions. There's a lot to unpack. And from a personal sort of like letting you in behind the scenes of what happens in my brain, I approach all of these big questions and conversations and deep dives that I go in all the time. And I'm like, oh, I want to share this. Oh, I want to share that. Oh, I want to share that. And I get to pick and choose which ones, not because I'm like, I have to be intentional about asking, okay, what is it that wants to come through right now, and trust that. And if you're a creative person who is interested in sharing their voice in some capacity and their curiosity and their knowledge, and then you probably understand this well, and it might benefit to hear for you to just, ask for what wants to come through and trust that process. And there's so much more that I would love to say. So much more. And I know that a lot of the pieces that come through, just like I've noticed over the past few years, are things that are in gestation process that will reach their form at a certain moment when it's moment. And I understand much more the power of the bigger cycles that we're working with. And so honor your cycles. Just know that you have your own space of growth. And while you are in that, knowing that, we're all growing in our own sort of moment in time, move yourself towards creation and generation. And that that is the momentum that will carry you forth and not crimp your energetic flow, the creative energetic flow. So today on Goddess Day, go do something really wonderful for yourself. Get yourself flowers. Activate your senses in some way. Maybe get yourself a new candle, a scent that you love. Eat something delicious. Wrap yourself in a cozy blanket that feels like the comfort of who you are, hugging yourself. Gift yourself something that feels decadent and abundant. And that can be, we're not talking about a certain amount of money. We're just talking about what feels good for you. Carry a new mantra in your heart. Write a love letter to yourself. Write a love phrase to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and be willing to see the incredible human being reflected back. Breathe. Connect with nature, if possible, whether it's a plant on your desk, or you can put your feet on the grass or go to a park. And call in your sense of autonomy. Call in a new evolution of co-creation and how you co-create with others. And call in the courage to disrupt the systems that are holding you crunched up. Last thing I'll mention, as I was talking to a beautiful new client this week. You know who you are. And, well, you will know when I say this. And we were both reflecting on the fact that we want to do this like big work. And it's like, well, how does it look like? And how do we share it with people? And being in that discovery process is so amazing. And we were both like, yeah, it's like, we want to tell people there's another way. Like, come check this out. There's have you heard? There's another way. And there's another way that can live in where you are right now. I feel so strongly about that. You don't have to wait. You don't have to compartmentalize. You can infuse that, what I call walking in magic and walking in your own magic, wherever you find yourself. I know that because I've lived it and I live it now. So, having said that, to the 58 incredible souls that are following this channel as of now, I love you. And if you're not, what are you waiting for? Come subscribe, comment, share, feel the love. I will have a new video for you next week. If you want to join my newsletter, there's links below. If you want to join my Patreon and my incredible Creatrix Lab intimate space of making some wondrous projects come to life, plus a bunch of rituals and other delicious, magical things that we're going to be up to. You have a couple days to join that. We start on Monday. So to all of the beautiful people at work that have leaned in to work more directly with me, thank you. Thank you for trusting me and supporting my work. And to everybody else, let's have an incredible Friday weekend eclipse portal. Yeah, let's do it. I love you all. All my love and stardust. Adios.